She came out and she said, I apologize. Like, I went too far, but it wasn't sincere.
We're on the first day of casting. And I just kept looking and looking and looking. Just high as Rachel reached that.
She was Hollywood's golden girl, the one everyone believed would be the next big sensation. Handpicked by Spielberg himself, blessed with a voice like an angel, and winning hearts on every press tour. But beneath all that glitter and glowing headlines, a much darker story is now beginning to unfold. Because if the latest whispers from inside the industry are true, even Steven Spielberg might be involved.
Rachel Zegler, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantada is the only global solution.
Lines that they say, like magic mirror on the wall. It was a lot of fun.
Disney deleted Someday My Prince Will Come and made a modernized feminist alternative.
Broke out with this news, and I'm very, very, very excited and looking forward.
Last week was a very big week, objectively a huge week. We had quite a few announcements as a first live-action film, which is Snow White and the Evil Queen. And that's me, I'm Snow White, which is so fun.
The man who personally chose Zegler for West Side Story is now allegedly calling working with her downright horrible. And let's get one thing straight. Spielberg doesn't throw words like that around. This is a legend, a giant in Hollywood. If Steven Spielberg is calling you a nightmare, it's not just bad, it's catastrophic.
Into this, the first villain Disney ever had. It's really getting myself into this big crown.
So she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
Controversy in Snow White. The dwarves have been eliminated in the live action.
Yeah.
Now it's Snow White and the 7 magical beings.
Wait, it's 7 and the magical beings?
Yeah,
they won't even say
magical
and the 7
beings.
dwarves?
No, because they're not dwarves. For right now, that's the only jobs that are there.
It's awful, generic. Never mind that the lyrics make no sense at all. All you have to do to make your dream come true is let it echo. Is it like on a metaphor?
This isn't just tea. It's a whole damn kettle boiling over, and it gets even messier.
Remaking the movie, they just got rid of the dwarves. But they have one token dwarf amongst these magical creatures. You actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it. The disability, like we're a disability group, you just erase that whole.
They say all you have to do to make your wish come true is let it echo, 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 echo.
Now, I'm guessing that she's not married. I'm guessing that she doesn't have kids. The movie is a complete disaster, by the way.
And, you know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie. And I believe it only made less than $1 million.
The movie turned into one of Disney's biggest embarrassments. In recent memory, fans bailed. Merch sales bombed. And now, the real question is echoing everywhere. Is there a common denominator here? Because this isn't the first time Rachel Zegler's name has been tangled up in controversy. At this point, it feels like wherever she goes, drama follows. Whether it's feuding with co-stars, alienating fans with tone-deaf interviews, or stepping into
Pretending like Rachel Zegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film.
So apparently, according to them and according to the writers of Snow White, women can't even want to be in love anymore.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
It's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary that really add to that runtime. And let me go ahead and let you know that they're absolutely f***ing atrocious.
Have they ever thought about maybe like a little bit of vulnerability study, opposition research, that sort of thing before you go and hire some Zoomer who's a lunatic?
political landmines blowing up mid-press tours? Zegler has turned into a magnet for headlines, and not the good, kind. So is it just bad luck? Or is Hollywood finally pulling back the curtain on what working with her is really like? Stick with me, because what's coming next might just change the way you see Rachel Zegler forever. On screen, West Side Story gave us a dreamy, colorful spectacle.
I sat through the whole thing. This was really bad. It was extremely leftist on every political dimension. Racial politics, sexual politics, class politics, regime politics. Its narrative was cowardly. It was just off.
Doing catastrophically. They spent $300 million and it currently has a 2.2 out of 10 rating on IMDb.
The movie has a major identity crisis.
The new Disney boss babe, who is Rachel Zegler, the inverse of...
Oh my God.
This is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
Big dance numbers, powerhouse vocals, and all the glossy magic you'd expect from a Spielberg production. but behind the scenes, it was reportedly a whole different story. Turns out, the set of West Side Story wasn't nearly as harmonious as the choreography made it look. The first red flag? Fans quickly noticed Rachel Zegler and co-star Ariana DeBose, who played Anita and delivered one of the film's most celebrated performances, unfollowed each other on Instagram shortly after filming Wrapped. In Hollywood, that's basically the digital equivalent of flipping a dinner table. An unfollow in an industry obsessed with fake smiles speaks louder than any press release. The actresses never addressed the drama publicly, but insiders claimed the tension was simmering all throughout production. Sources whispered that Zegler's alleged attitude rubbed many people the wrong way. Some even called her difficult and hard to direct. And when Ariana DeBose started scooping up awards, including an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, the cold silence from Zegler's side didn't go unnoticed, but it didn't stop there. Another eyebrow-raising moment? Ziegler's complete radio silence during the scandal involving co-star Ansel Elgort. As serious allegations against Elgort surfaced, many expected Zegler, the film's leading lady, to speak up. Instead, she stayed silent. No statement. No support. Nothing. That silence didn't sit well with audiences, especially since Zegler had built her brand around activism and speaking out on social justice issues. Critics were quick to call her out for the double standard. How could she preach accountability and women's empowerment, yet stay silent when the controversy hit closer to home? Behind the scenes, the whispers only got louder. Crew members allegedly described the atmosphere on set as icy, with Zegler isolated from parts of the cast. Some even hinted that Spielberg himself grew frustrated with her behavior as production dragged on, though officially, no one said a word. But when you connect the dots, the social media fallout, the off-screen silence, the rising tension behind the scenes, a messy picture starts to form. And for someone who was supposed to be Hollywood's next sweetheart, the cracks were already showing. And West Side Story? That was just the beginning, because what happened next would follow Zegler straight into her next major project, and things only got worse from there. By the time Rachel Zegler stepped into the iconic role of Snow White, the backlash was already locked, loaded, and waiting. And honestly, she walked straight into it. What was supposed to be her fairy tale moment quickly spiraled into a PR disaster. And the worst part? Most of the damage was self-inflicted. It all kicked off with Zegler's now infamous press tour interviews where she couldn't help but bash the very movie she was hired to remake. Instead of celebrating the 1937 classic, Zegler called the story outdated and weird, even bragging that in her version, Snow White wouldn't dream about true love or be saved by a prince. Was that her call to make? Probably not, but she said it anyway. Over and over, fans of the original were furious. Disney loyalists were outraged to hear the lead actress disrespecting one of the studio's most beloved films. And Disney adults? They don't play when it comes to their classics. Social media exploded. Hashtags like Not My Snow White started trending long before the movie even hit theaters. But the backlash didn't end with bad interviews and awkward sound bites. Zegler also grabbed headlines for her outspoken political views, especially a highly publicized Free Palestine post. While she had every right to speak her mind, the timing was catastrophic from a business standpoint. Sources claimed the post triggered panic inside Disney, with execs scrambling to contain the fallout. Security at Disney events was reportedly ramped up after threats and outrage started, pouring in from all sides. It put Disney in an impossible position. On one hand, they cast Zegler to appeal to a younger, socially conscious generation. On the other, her comments and combative attitude alienated the very audience they needed to buy tickets. Parents weren't impressed. Merch partners reportedly got cold feet. Pre-orders for Snow White costumes tanked, with families refusing to dress their kids as a version of the character that, to them, rejected the magic they grew up loving. And let's not forget, this was supposed to be Zegler's Disney princess era, the dream gig every young actress grows up chasing. Instead, the headlines were brutal, Clips of her mocking the Prince storyline went viral for all the wrong reasons. Influencers shredded her on TikTok and YouTube, calling her arrogant and out of touch with the fan base. It wasn't just bad optics, it was a full-blown PR catastrophe. No matter how many trailers Disney dropped or how many posters they plastered, every conversation circled back to Zegler's comments. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Because the backlash before the release was nothing compared to what happened after. The numbers don't lie. And for Disney's Snow White, the numbers were a nightmare. With a bloated production budget reportedly between $240 and $270 million, not including marketing, Disney expected a major hit. Instead, it flopped. Hard. The global box office barely scraped $194.6 million, making it one of Disney's most embarrassing financial faceplants in years. Think about that for a second. Snow White movie, arguably Disney's crown jewel, couldn't even break even. For a brand that spent the last decade cashing in on nostalgia, this wasn't just a flop, it was a wake-up call. And here's the kicker. People aren't blaming the script. They're not blaming the director. They're not blaming the VFX. All fingers are pointed at one person, Rachel Zegler. Insiders at Disney, and even industry analysts have been blunt about it. According to multiple reports, the studio massively underestimated how much damage Zegler's disastrous press tour and social media presence would do. By the time the movie finally hit theaters, a huge part of Disney's core audience had already tuned out. Parents weren't taking their kids. Disney diehards were boycotting. Casual moviegoers? They were more interested in mocking Zegler's viral interview clips than actually buying a ticket. And the merch shelves told the same story. Costume sales tanked. Tie-in products gathered dust. Halloween sales bombed. Because, as one insider put it, kids didn't want to dress up as the princess their parents were mad at. The marketing team scrambled to pivot. They pushed clips focusing on the supporting cast. They leaned hard into nostalgia and the classic songs. But no matter how much they tried, the controversy around Zegler was too loud to drown out. And in the business of fairy tales, bad press is pure poison. But here's where it gets even messier. This wasn't just about ticket sales anymore. It got personal. Rachel Zegler's public image became a war zone, splitting audiences right down the middle. On one side, her defenders, praising her for standing up for what she believes in. They pointed to her political activism, her Free Palestine posts, her criticism of Trump, her social justice stances, and called her brave. They argued the backlash was proof that Hollywood punishes young women who speak out, but on the other side, it was brutal. Fans and critics didn't say her activism was the problem. It wasn't her activism that sank her. It was the delivery. The constant condescension in interviews. The dismissive attitude toward the original film and its fan base. Mocking. The very story that gave her the role in the first place. People didn't see passion. They saw arrogance, and the industry started taking notice. Rumors swirled that insurance costs on future projects shot up whenever Zegler's name was attached. Some agents allegedly warned clients to stay far away from productions involving her, calling her box office poison in a tiara. Even within Disney, insiders claimed heated debates erupted over whether they should have just recast Snow White after the initial backlash. It wasn't just the public losing faith, it was the people behind the scenes. And while Zegler and her team tried to spin it as haters gonna hate, the receipts told another story. Audiences spoke, not with tweets, but with their wallets. They didn't show up, they didn't buy in. And in Hollywood, that's the only language that matters. But as brutal as the box office numbers were, the real fallout was still ahead. Because once the dust settled from Snow White, the spotlight shifted back, straight onto Rachel Zegler herself. And her reputation was about to take an even bigger hit. Her recent professional moves have been drowned out by controversy and whispers of aunt's attention. The alleged comments from Steven Spielberg only added fuel to the fire, suggesting real challenges with her behavior behind the scenes. Now, as Hollywood evolves and redefines its rising stars, everyone is watching to see if Rachel Zegler can survive the storm, or if the storm will define her.